Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Freelance Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and today I'm very happy to have Dimitri MALIGNAN on. Welcome, Dimitri.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
We've been talking about having you on for a while because you've been part of the Fearless Artist for, I want to say, a year and a half now. I think our first conversation was January, February.
Yeah, actually, Diana reached out to me in January of last year. And then I guess I started in February, March.
Yeah, you connected with Deanna on Instagram, and you're Romanian, and she married a Romanian, so that was a nice instant connection. I remember at that point she was preparing some Romanian Christmas arrangements, so she started talking to you, and she was like, "Michelle, you got to meet this Dimitri guy. He's pianist in Paris." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll put it down on my to-do list, like reach out to Dimitri." And then I didn't for, I don't know, a while. And then we were looking for people to join the mastermind. That was back when we only launched it twice a year. And then, yeah, you and I got on a call and it was super nice.
Yeah, I mean, you must have thought like, ugh, another pianist. What am I going to?
No, every time we get another pianist in the Fearless Artist, I'm happy. I love pianists. I mean, for me, community has always been so crucial. And I studied at the University of Montreal, and on the music building is divided by instruments. So all the pianists practice on the 5th floor. And if anyone from UDM is listening to this, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so all the pianists hung out all the time. And so I think I'm just so comfortable because it's just that sense of connection and understanding, and this like kind of maybe shared suffering of like.
I mean, that's kind of a different experience from what I had because, as you know, pianists are sort of lonely most of the time. You know, you practice alone in your practice room or at home, whereas the other instrument is, they hang out in orchestra gigs and chamber music and stuff. So the pianists are a bit more solitary. It was nice to be part of this community of TFA where I could get to connect with other musicians and other pianists too.
Actually, that's good that you're bringing that up. I mean, I know my personality type is always to kind of find a group of friends and then harass them daily. And I think the University of Montreal is a very open, friendly, welcoming atmosphere. And I know not a lot of other institutions are necessarily the same way. I don't think there was actually razor blades between the keys at Juilliard, but you hear all the stories of the competition and yeah.
Yeah, lots of schools are indeed very competitive. I was lucky enough to not be in a very stressful environment in my education, but still, of course, compared to other instruments, it's another kind of life.
Yeah, well, actually, that's not 100% true. Yours was very stressful because you were going to do a master's during COVID. But first of all, before we jump into a million things, why don't you introduce yourself for our audience, people who don't know you? Give us a little background.
Yes, so I'm 27. I was born in Paris. My parents are from Romania originally, so I have this double heritage, both Romanian and French. And I know that's the question most people like to ask after concerts, but I started playing the piano at the age of 5.
No, you took my question. Why are you doing this? You stole my best question for this episode. How old were you when you started playing? Also, you didn't say your name. Can you say your name for us, please?
My name is Dimitri MALIGNAN, in case you want to pronounce it. Okay. I know it's a tough one sometimes, but
no, we have to say it like how that guy did on your Bach podcast, Dimitri MALIGNAN.
Yeah, the most New York accent ever.
You were reviewed. You have a Bach CD, and somebody reviewed you, and you had sent me the podcast, and he said your name about 15 times, and it was hysterical. Sorry, that was an aside. Continue.
Yes. So then I studied in Paris at the École Normale de Musique Alfred Cortot, which is a very famous private school in Paris. I did most of my education there until the last year of what the school offers. So the what they called the Diplôme de Concertiste back then. So the concertist diploma, now it's called an artist diploma actually. And I was given the first prize that year, so the Prix Cortot, the Alfred Cortot prize.
The youngest person to ever win that.
Yeah, so I was 19 then, and it gave me a bunch of concerts and a recording of my first CD.
So which was Schumann?
Schumann and Prokofiev, yes. Which was the program I played for the exam as well.
It's an amazing prize that the school has. And also to help you get your first disc out is crazy.
It's very special, and they don't give it actually every year. So some years they wouldn't actually give that prize. And then I pursued my studies in Amsterdam at the conservatory. I was 19, so I still, of course, needed some proper education. So I studied at the conservatory in Amsterdam till my master's, which I got in 2020, right indeed when COVID started. So that was a
Your
bit,
thesis, your master's thesis was the day before lockdown started, right?
yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
So I presented the oral presentation the day before the school closed, and I packed my things and I came back to Paris.
And did you think that you were going home for 14 days like the whole world thought we were going
Yeah,
home for
precisely.
14 days? Yeah.
Yeah, I told my landlady, yeah, don't worry, I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I was just permanently back.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So that was a brief whirlwind history. So you finished your master's at the Conservatory of Amsterdam, and then since then you've been studying in Rome.
Yeah, so of course, when I finished my master's, I was still quite young. I was 22, but because of COVID, no concerts, no opportunities whatsoever. I was a bit in between, and I felt like I still also needed some guidance. So 3 years ago, I started to study in Rome at the Santa Cecilia Academy, which is a postgraduate program with Benedetto Lupo. So I'm very happy. I'm going there once a month. It's a blast to be in Rome and getting some pasta every day. So
I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. I follow your stories and I get angry when I see fresh pasta. You said it was $5 or something.
€5 right next to school, fresh pasta.
Terrible. Oh. Anyway, very cool. So yeah, I mean, I didn't finish my master's till 25. I moved to Europe at 25. So of course, at that age, I mean, especially as a classical musician, when have you ever done your training? I mean, at that point, I was thinking of starting the doctorate. So it would have put me another 4 years of lessons to come out at 29, 30 with a doctorate. So I think as pianists, we just think we're supposed to have lessons forever.
I mean, indeed, like in most conservatories, you would say you would finish a master's indeed at 25, 26. But then you see most competitions, for example, are open till 32, 33. And that's still an age where you can learn a lot of things. And when you compare with athletes, if you're a tennis player, you have a coach your whole career, till you are basically 40. So, of course, as musicians, I don't see a problem with having a coach, a guidance. I mean, if you want a teacher every week, that's great. Sometimes you might need only once a month or once in a while. But I think it's still good to have an external ear to help you get through all the challenges, both musically and in your career, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes I made because I came over here and I wanted to do another master's. The one I applied for was in Switzerland. There's only one spot because I already had a master's, so I couldn't do the normal master's. It was a technicality. And then I did master classes kind of off and on, but I really wish that I had been like, no, like I need to study with someone regularly just to have the goals and the structure, because as soon as you get on your own, it is so easy to feel isolated, to feel lost, to not know what direction to pursue, to not have someone helping you. Should you be doing competitions? What rep should you be focusing on? Like, what is the appropriate next step for you? And for me, I think it was overwhelming. So I kind of shut down a little bit and I went into kind of teaching piano and doing whatever gigs I could. But yeah, it's too bad. It's good that you found this program in Rome. And I know that you have like exams coming up that are insane. So you have like 3 programs.
Indeed, yeah. It's the last year. So I'm in the third year, which is the last year of the program. And we have very tough final exams. So I'm getting ready for those.
Yeah, good. Well, I think you're already ready. You just had a really great recital this past week in Bologna, and things are going well for you. So anyway, we're having you on here today because you were, well, I mean, many things. It's interesting to talk to someone who's kind of taking the reins for his career. But recently you were the star of a Fast Forward call. And at that moment, I knew I need to get you on the podcast because you just came back from a few concerts that you did in the US, your second time there. And as soon as you came onto the call, so Fast Forward, for everybody listening, it's our community, and there's 30 people in there. So there's about 15 people on the call, and Dimitri logged on, and everyone was like, oh, Dimitri, you're back from your tour. Oh my gosh, we've been following you. It was amazing. Everybody was so excited to see you, and you were like fielding all these questions because everyone's like, how are you getting all these concerts? How are you doing this? Are you working with a manager? Like, how are you doing this? And you were answering people very graciously. So I thought, I'd love to have you on, come talk about the process of what does it look like? I mean, I think that's the number one thing that people come to us for. Like, how do I get more concerts? How do I build in the direction that I actually want my career to go? How do I know what to say yes to, what to say no to? How do I set fees? So if you want to share a little bit, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned something interesting, because that's one of the questions I get asked most often is, do you actually have a manager helping you getting all your gigs? So I do not at the moment have a manager. I used to have in the past. It worked to a certain extent, but it wasn't like so influential in my career. So I decided to pursue without. And yeah, so I'm handling everything myself. And I, I'm a person who has thousands of ideas and projects. And like maybe some years ago, I would get a little bit overwhelmed with all the ideas, and I didn't know how to direct my energy and my focus and where to start, basically. So sometimes, I would have this burst of energy and just write hundreds of emails in 1 week, and then get depressed because I wouldn't get any answers, and then not do anything for 6 months. And then complaining why I didn't have any gigs during the
That is
season.
very real. Thank you. Yeah, very real.
So I think one thing that attracted me in TFA was to get more structured about my strategies, and actually how to apply it to a more regular basis. How to get more efficient with pitching, with reaching out, and so yeah, I'm trying to be more consistent. I'm trying to, in a way, also not be annoyed when I don't get answers. Like, it is what it is. People are busy, or people have other priorities. But I think someone very influential in the Fearless Artist Mastermind recently said that you need to get 10 rejections per week.
Did I say that? Maybe. I mean, I took it from this YouTube video there where this guy, he left the corporate world and gave himself 6 months to kind of make it as an entrepreneur. So he came up with this thing called the rejection game. And so he's like, his goal was to get 100 rejections a month or something. Yeah. So I think with the mastermind, it's like, all right, let's aim for 10. Like, who can get 10 no's? Because the idea is that means that you're putting yourself out there over and over. You're getting used to the feeling of being rejected to the point where it doesn't affect you or stop you. Because as you're saying, like, getting frustrated or pissed off if people don't answer, or if they do say no, like that's very disappointing. That's very discouraging. And I think a lot of musicians are coming up against that.
Yeah. And another aspect was, as I said, I got my degrees quite young. Then I did, all the classical path of successful, in quotes, artist, doing all the competitions, checking all the big things I needed to check. I won competitions, I got prizes and everything. So then I was sort of expecting things to just happen by themselves, Of course, after I won the competition, or after I got the pre-corto, I got some gigs. It was very nice, I would receive some emails or some phone calls where people wanted to have me in their venues or in their festivals. But then slowly, of course, it disappears, and COVID didn't help at all, of course, because then when we started again, in 2022, 2023, other generations of musicians came, and people already forgot a little bit about you. So I was kind of depressed. I remember last year, in the beginning of the year, like, why is my season empty? Why is no one calling me? And that's when I was attracted by TFA, and I found that there were some strategies that could be helpful to take action, basically, and make my own season happen, and not wait for people to actually do it for me. And I must say that my 2024-2025 season was really good. One of the best I had in my career so far. Lots of concerts, lots of exciting achievements. So
yeah, I mean, we got on the initial call, and usually when I meet someone new, they, let's just be honest, musicians have a hard time investing in themselves. Putting money out feels like a loss for some reason. So Deanna and I, we price the mastermind in a way that feels like fair for the value that we're giving, and also with the opportunities that we're teaching people how to achieve. One concert fee pays for the mastermind, for example. But, so I met you, and I knew that you were still like, at 26, but you're still in a master's degree. So I thought, okay, maybe fast forward something for you, because it's like our lowest It's 57 a month, so that could be a great way to get you involved. And you're like, no, mastermind sounds great. And I was surprised. I was happy, but I was also surprised, and I didn't really expect you to jump in, but you did. And also because you didn't already know us, a lot of times people will come into Fast Forward first, and then they'll see how we coach, and they'll see how the community functions, and then they'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to take a step up. But you were like top down right away. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think I did like maybe 1 month of Fast Forward at first, just to get to know everybody. And indeed, then you pitched me Mastermind. And I felt that was basically what I needed. Like in the last years, I've been approached, or I was in contact with lots of similar, coaching programs in a way, but I always felt that they were very generic, very non-personalized. They would just give you basic advice like, do a website, get your social media together. I'm like, yes, thank you very much. I know all of that. I can open a book. But with TFA, I found like it was way more, tailored to the needs of the clients. And Mastermind was like, a short program. I think it was what, 2 months,
No, 3.
3 months. And what I like was the accountability thing, like we have a call, we get through a lot of issues and how to deal with them. And then by the next call, we have to see what we did to actually solve these issues. And that was something that was quite important for me, because I think, like many musicians, we get a bit carried away with all the things we have to do. And then we say, we are going to do this, but we don't actually have a clear plan about how to do that and when. So I think it helped me a lot getting structured. I think my main issue back then was indeed I didn't have any concerts planned for like the second half of the year. So we did the Mastermind in the spring of last year, and like beginning in the autumn, and for the beginning of 2025, I didn't have anything, like literally zero on my agenda. And by the end of the Mastermind, I already started to have a lot of gigs planned and new contacts made. So yeah, it was a great investment. And I knew that it was going to be beneficial, because you and Diana, I mean, you are very involved in all of your musicians. I mean, always extra with energy and involvement. And that's great. I mean, we feel really loved, and we feel like part of a great community.
Yeah, when you talk about tailored, I mean, the mastermind is set up that way where everybody comes on and they themselves say, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm working on. Like, that is good coaching. It's you bring people into a place where you hold space for people to come in and say, this is my current career situation, good or bad. And actually, we try to take those words off of it, because let's just look at it objectively. I've got this many opportunities coming up. I've got this many gigs, or this many potential contacts. Okay, like you're saying, let's make a strategy. Let's make a plan. Let's get the calendar out. Like, by when do you foresee that things could be moving in the right direction? What was the accountability like for you between the calls? Like, how did it encourage you? Because you're saying you would get bursts of energy and then drop before Mastermind, but then in the program, how is it different?
Yeah, I would say, like, first of all, it was to be more consistent in the way I was reaching out to venues and presenters. So instead, indeed, of sending 100 emails, in 1 week, I could send 10, 12, 20, whatever, but then do that every week, and then see by the end of the month what was the result. And then one thing that was very important that you mentioned back then was about following up, which was something I think, especially me as an introvert,
I know coming onto this podcast was already a big step for you. So thanks for being here. You're doing great.
I hope my accent is bearable for the listeners.
Your English is perfect. Your accent's wonderful. You're good.
Thank you.
We're going to have to get captions on screen to translate what you're saying.
Do we need French subtitles as well for your French followers? I know you have lots of French followers.
No, they're only on my piano account. They don't follow TFA. So, they're
I will bring other French people. I promise.
Okay.
But following up, like when you reach out to a presenter, like especially in the mindset of a student, still, because of course I was still a student, I'm still a student, I was fresh out of my master. Like when you reach out to a venue, it's like you have to ask permission for them to let you play. Like, please, I have this, can you let me play?
Yeah.
And then if they don't answer, you're like, oh, I shouldn't bother them. probably they are extremely busy. I will feel ridiculous if I actually send another email. But turns out, I sent 2 or 3 follow-ups and I got some concepts after sometimes after the third time I wrote an email. So people are just busy, or they read your email, they went to do something else and then they forgot, or they were waiting for their schedule to clear out or whatever. So there are many reasons. And one thing that was very important to get out of this mindset of asking permission was to know that this is a collaboration that you're doing with a venue. So the venue has the hall, the piano, the audience, and the money. What you can offer is a performance for the people to actually come to the venue and pay their tickets, and so the presenter can actually earn money out of that. So if you don't exist, they don't earn money. So it's a collaboration. They need you, you need them. So the greatest mindset change for me doing the mastermind was to say, hi, this is what I can offer. How can we collaborate? If you want to collaborate, great. If you don't want, okay, move on to the next one. But yeah, I think that was quite important for me. And the accountability of the mastermind was that, I would come up with an issue, with a problem, and you or Diana would be immediately like, okay, so how do you solve this? So you don't yourself give the answer. You try to implement in our minds how we can take action to solve the problem. What's the most logical solution for that? And of course, then you give advice and guidance, but it's not like you would say, you should do this and that and that and that. And then we take notes and we come home and we do our homework, and it works. It's about how we change our mindsets. And I think I quite changed my mindset in the way I would.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned that's what good coaching is empowering. First of all, coaching is a collaboration. Coaching is a equal relationship between coach and coachee. So, I mean, of course, I have thoughts, and I've seen what other people do to get gigs, and I've worked with hundreds of musicians at this point, so I have lots of ideas to offer, but I can't just start, shoving all of that at someone who's coming into a call, because then, first of all, they have reasons that they haven't done those things already. And it's usually related to mindset, like you're saying, or fear, or asking permission to play is a huge thing. I mean, you kind of glossed over that, but that's like a massive mindset shift from going to asking permission, please let me play a concert. I've got this program. Am I good enough for you? To saying, hey, I've got an interesting idea. I think it can fit your series or your venue or your programming because of blank, blank, blank. And now you're going to tailor your pitch. And I mean, I'd love for you to talk, first of all, where are you finding these venues? Who are you writing? And share as much as you want to, because I mean, that's what people, in the fast forward, they're called, like, how do you know who to write? Okay, yeah, Google's your friend. This is what I also do in my entrepreneurship class in Rotterdam, by the way. Like, we spend a whole class, like, looking up venues, looking at where your friends play, looking at where other people that you follow on Instagram have played, and making a Excel sheet, working your way through the list. But yeah, please share about that. And then also, with the pitch, like, are you tailoring it? What's your strategy? And then the third question is, with the follow-ups, are you just saying like, hi, did you get my email? Or do you like try to be interesting about it? Or what's your strategy? And then I'll share it, because I got an interesting follow-up this week that kind of annoyed me, but I was like, well, good for you for following up. Just being honest. We're being very honest here. We're recording this episode late, and I just came back from France today, and we're just being real.
Yes, we are. It's a tough job. I would say I'm the least organized person. So I know you are way more organized. I mean, if we would compare our laptops or our phones, I know you have files and everything is.
Do you think
very
that's
organized,
true?
I think.
Okay.
Because
I'm glad.
you're doing billions of things, and I'm
Yeah, well,
only
that
doing my
actually,
piano.
to be fair, I had to learn that when I was in charge of 2 conservatory jobs and TFA, like Excel sheets. Yeah.
Like, whenever I look at your agenda, it's like so clear, and my agenda is always a mess. But the thing is, I know so many people, when they reach out to venues, they have indeed like these Excel sheets, like they scout a little bit what are the interesting venues, and they write all the email addresses, and that's great. I mean, of course, I encourage people to do that, but I'm not that dedicated to planning. So I'm mostly based on intuition. And so I have, as I said, thousands of ideas and projects, and I just think, okay, who could be interested in that specific thing? And then I reach out to venues which either I know, like, more or less, either I was in contact with the person at some point, venues I've played at, or I know someone who was there and I just came to the concert and I shook hands with the presenter.
Right.
Or
Which is a
venues,
strategy, by the way, for everybody listening. Go
I
to
mean,
concerts and meet
yeah,
people.
absolutely. Going out is very important to concerts. That's where you make most of the connections. But then one limitation I found, especially I'm from France and from Paris, it's an extremely competitive market. Like we are
Yeah.
hundreds of pianists. Everybody is super good. And there are lots of festivals and venues, and they have their people, like it's normal when you have a festival. I mean, you have a festival, Michelle, you like to invite the people you like. That's normal, the people you know.
The people I want to work with specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know to which extent you actually program people that just coldly pitch to you a program. That's probably a very small percentage of actually the people you program. So if I would coldly pitch a presenter in France, my chances to get programmed are near zero. And that's also because, as I said, I won prizes, I have a good resume and everything. So people know who I am already in France. I've played concerts, I have CDs, blah, blah. They heard the name. So if they wanted to get me on their festivals, they would just call me, and that happens. I still get some phone calls from time to time, of course, of people who just know about me or they looked at my website or whatever and they want to invite me. So what I started to do recently is to expand a bit my geographical areas in a way and to pitch in other countries where I haven't played yet and just see how it goes, like just pitch to people who absolutely don't know me. And I've had way more, first of all, answers, because that's already something to have an answer, and then positive answers. Because in these countries, so I'm talking, for example, about Asia, I've started to reach out a bit in some Asian countries where, of course, big markets, there are lots of musicians, but maybe it's less competitive than Europe or the US. And, they just see your resume, they see your proposal, and they're interested because they say, yeah, it's good quality, we want to have you. So I had way more chances to actually have gigs outside of my country than in my country, which is a little bit annoying, of course, because I would like to perform more in France, but that's a project for later. But so yeah.
I mean, I want to push back on you because I know a little bit about the details. I mean, in Asia, you're booking like 3 or 4 or 5 for November, right? And you've
Yes.
played dozens of times in France. So I mean, I understand maybe the feeling of rejection has been higher in France than these cold pitches that you're setting that are surprisingly working for you.
I mean, most of my concerts are still outside of France, like I would say more than 50% in any case, which I'm
Okay.
glad, I'm glad to play abroad. That's not an issue,
Okay.
but I would like to perform for sure more in France, but it's a tough market.
Okay.
And that's a topic for another podcast. But no, I was saying even in the Netherlands where I studied, it's also, a country where there are lots of musicians and I try to perform there and I perform from time to time, but I would like to perform more. But yeah, people have their own circle of musicians they want to promote.
That's important. So. That's important. All right, we're going to take a pause here and come back next week for part 2 of this great conversation with Dimitri. So thanks everybody for listening. And once again, please leave us a review, share this to your story, send it to a friend. It really, really helps us to get the word out about these great conversations. And yeah, your action point for this week is to reach out to someone. Send the DM, send the email, find someone that you've been meaning to collaborate with or a presenter that you want to pitch to and send it. And then I want you to DM me at the Fearless Artist Mastermind and tell me how it went. We've loved doing this conversation and we're looking forward to having you come back and join us for next week, part 2 with Dimitri MALIGNAN. Have a great week, everybody, and be fearless.